Hey, how's it going? So we're getting close to the end of the month, so I wanted to do an update for the decluttering challenge for those of you who are participating. With it being close to the end of your challenge, this should be the 26th of the month when this is going up. So you're getting to the hardest point, getting rid of 26 items today, then 27, and then lastly 28. And so by the end, you will have gotten rid of almost 400 items. How awesome is that? Well, at this point, you're probably running into some challenges, or you're having some difficulties or feelings that you didn't know were going to come along with this. So what might some of those be? Well, you may be thinking this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Or you may be realizing that it's actually easier than you thought it was going to be. Or that if you sit down for like 5 or 10 minutes to work on something, it takes a lot more energy than you would have expected it to take. But you may also be feeling that loading up a trash can full of paper and junk or loading up a box to donate feels amazing, and it's almost addicting how good it feels. Well, if you're like me, you've probably felt all of those at some point. So I want to talk about some of the things you're probably running into and some suggestions to help you get through those things. So first off, as you're getting rid of all this stuff, you want it to actually get out of your house. And so that may be the first thing you're running into is, okay, I'm getting rid of all this stuff, but now I've got this mountain of things over here that I can't get out. So what am I supposed to do with it? Well, there's 3 main things. If it's trash, then just trash it. Find if it needs to be recycled, find where you can do that. If your city doesn't offer things like that, then you may just have to trash it, as much as that may hurt. If it's something that still has life left in it, but it doesn't have life left for you, then you can load those up and go find a resale shop to donate those to. And a lot of times, what kind of a challenge, as well as how do you get rid of stuff, is things that have value and you're like, oh, I can't get rid of this. It's worth this much money. Well, there are certain items that you can sell. But one thing that you need to think about before you just have a whole big pile of things that, oh, I'm going to list this, and I'm going to sell this, and I'm going to get this much for this and this much for this. If you really have enough to do a garage sale and you're really going to do it very soon, like you have a date in mind, then go ahead and do that. But otherwise, you need to look at how much is this worth, and look at the time that it's going to take to list it, to sell it, and give yourself an hourly rate. What are you worth an hour? $15? $10? Whatever. You need to think, if I can only sell this for like $2 or $3, is it going to cost me more time to get it sold than it's actually worth? And so for me, I'm not going to bother with saving something if I don't think I can at least get $5 for it. But depending on how much I think it's going to take to sell it, I may raise that up to $10 or more. Another thing to remember with that is that you're not a resale shop. So you may see something for sale at a resale shop and be like, oh, I can sell this for $20 because that's what I saw it for sale at this place. But as a retailer, they can charge more than you or I can. We're going to get more like garage sale prices. And so you need to keep that in mind with what you're trying to sell, that you may not get as much out of it as you would like to, or that you think it's worth. You're going to have to mark yours down lower than that. So don't overshoot how much you think you're going to get for it and then end up wasting your time trying to get that much and not being successful at it. All right, so a big challenge that probably a lot of people run into pretty early on is, how do I get rid of sentimental items? Well, first tip, don't start there. So that's the easy answer. I'm pretty sure any decluttering book, and I know Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, sentimental items are like the last thing you address because it is the hardest. It does take the most energy. And if you work with things that are a lot easier, then you get used to the process of getting rid of things. And so you become trained on how to go through things. And so things like papers and sentimental items, those harder categories, become easier. And then there's less clutter around you in the other areas. And so it makes it easier to sit down and spend your time going through things like that. Couple things to remember with sentimental items. First off, the memory of the person who gave it to you is not confined to that object. An example I heard was that if you have a teacup that belonged to your grandmother is not confined to the teacup. She's bigger than that. Her memory is bigger than that, and you want to make sure that you don't attach everything about her to that one object. Because, I mean, worst case scenario, consider like your house burns down or you get robbed and it's gone. Well, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you've tied everything about that person to that one object and then that object's gone. So that's one key, is realizing that the person is not the object, but also realizing the purpose of a gift. The purpose of a gift is to convey love and friendship and affection from the giver to the recipient. And that is achieved the moment the gift is given. So really the main purpose of the gift is achieved at the time it is given. Also, usually it is meant to be something that is enjoyed, something that is useful. So if it is no longer useful, then it has outlived its purpose. If it is no longer something you enjoy, maybe it's worn out or it doesn't go with your taste in style or whatever anymore, it's outlived that. And so the person wanted you to use it or enjoy it. And if you're not able to do that anymore, then they don't want you to keep that just because you feel guilty about getting rid of it. So those are a few things to consider as you're going through things. And to remember that you don't have to keep everything. If there's like a cup of your grandmother's, it's one thing to keep it if you saw her drink out of it every morning, or you have like a really special memory attached to it. But don't just keep it because it sat in the back of her cupboard. That's an example I heard. Don't just keep something because it was possessed by a person. If there's real sentimental memories attached to it, then that's something you can keep. And of course, I'm not suggesting that you get rid of any sentimental items that you have. There are sentimental items that you keep, but you just want to be careful that you use discretion as you go through them, and that you only keep the ones that truly bring value to your life and help you in achieving the life you want to have. And that you don't keep so many that you get bogged down and really all you look around and see is guilt, because you really don't want to have it, but you just feel like you can't get rid of it. You don't want your house full of things like that. It doesn't bring good thoughts in. It doesn't make your house a place that is pleasant and peaceful. So those are just some things to consider as you're going through those. But like I said, you really want to start with easier categories. Marie Kondo suggests starting with clothes. That's a really good one. I like that one a lot because that's where you start your day. You start your day going into your closet, looking at your clothes, your shoes, your socks, your earrings, your purses, jewelry, all that kind of stuff. That's where your day starts. That's an area where you can really make the start of your day a lot easier. If you go through your clothes and go through items one by one, don't just look in there and say, what do I want to get rid of? Look through there, pull out a section that you're working with and say, what do I want to keep? What do I want to have a place in my life? And when you only have things that fit that category, it's going to make it a lot easier in the morning to make your decisions. When you go in there to get dressed, you're only going to see things you like. You're only going to see the shoes that you actually wear. You're only going to see the earrings that you actually wear. And so that decision-making process is going to be easier in the morning. And when you make decisions easier throughout your day, it makes it easier to sit down to a harder area of your house, like your desk or, your kitchen, something that you feel like you've really got to sit down and dig into. It makes it easier to handle those decisions when you haven't been busy making small decisions since you got up in the morning. A lot of times we have problems getting rid of stuff because it costs X amount of dollars to buy it. And so I feel like if I'm getting rid of it, I'm wasting that money. If you're never going to wear it, then one thing to realize is that the waste happened when you bought it. And you might not have thought of it that way, but if it's not going to be worn, then the mistake is not made now. The mistake was made when it was bought. And so letting go of it now does not waste your money. The money's already gone. And so giving it to someone who will use it allows that article of clothing to be useful instead of just sitting there taking up space in your closet. Or if it's something that you used to love but you no longer love, then to realize that it has been useful and it has served its purpose for you, but it's no longer serving that purpose, and so it doesn't need to continue to stay there. Something that a lot of people run into is having clothes of different sizes. Now, depending on what stage of life you're in, like for me, I've got my third baby on the way, so I definitely have a section of my closet that's just maternity. Or you may be just a couple years removed from having a baby, and so maybe you're trying to get to a certain size and you're still pretty close to that. And so that's your goal and you're working on it. And so it's fine to keep those. But if it's been a long time and you just have this goal that someday you'll get back into these clothes, then one thing is to be realistic and to say, what am I doing to achieve that goal? And then also, if it's really been a long time, those clothes that are that size you want to get to, they may not be in style when you get to that size. And so go through those things and really ask yourself, is this actually something I'm going to want to wear when I get to this size anyway? If you have the money, when you get to that size, you'll probably want to treat yourself to some new clothes to celebrate reaching your goal anyway. So keep those things in mind when you're trying to hold on to things that don't fit you, and looking at if that's a short-term goal or if that's a far-off long-term goal and may not happen, or if it does happen, you may be wanting other things anyway when you get to that point. And the same thing kind of goes for shoes. If shoes were really expensive when you bought them, but you never wear them, then they're not doing you any good. And so you're not saving money or making money by them staying in your closet. When you keep things that aren't being useful because of how much they cost you, they actually continue to cost you valuable real estate. And then also decision making, because you see them all the time and it's a decision that you have to make to not pick it, to look for something else that you do want, and then also kind of feeling guilty that you're not wearing it even though you spent the money on it. So one thing that a couple people have mentioned as I was trying to get some feedback on what other people are facing as far as their challenges is moving. And that's a really great question. Ideally, if you have time when you're moving is a great time to go through your things. When you're packing, just go through and don't be really meticulous. But as you're packing, if you're picking up something and you're like, why am I putting this in a box? Then don't. Don't just move it because you own it. If you want it to stay with you, then keep it. But if you don't, then set it aside and have that as something that you get rid of before you move. And then if you have time to unpack a little bit slower than normal, then you can kind of go through things again. Like I said, you don't want to be super meticulous because it'll take you way too much time, and going through your whole house like that will be exhausting. But if you can just have that in mind of, don't keep something just because I own it, and just be thoughtful as you're putting things in boxes. Do I want this? Do I want to make a place for this in my new home? And so that's one way that you can kind of go through it in 2 phases, but making each phase a little bit easier. Now, sometimes we don't have time for that. Sometimes you're in a rush and you just have to throw everything in a box, or maybe a moving company's doing it. And so like you're in a rush, you've got to just put everything away. That happens. And then it may be that your life and, with your family and stuff like that, you don't really have time to go through things the way you would like to when you move. And so with that, you do just kind of have to pick a section at a time and, just say, okay, I'm going to work on my bathroom. I've already put stuff in here, but as I'm going through and kind of organizing it, because a lot of times When you move in, you're just putting things away, trying to get them out of boxes, and then you kind of come back and organize it and set up your system a little better. That's a good time to go through and say what fits and what doesn't, and what do I want in my life. One thing that can be hard is, like say with bathroom items, is we just have way too many things, and we know it's too many. One thing is to realize that you do have to be limited by your space. You don't want to just limit yourself by what you want to keep, because sometimes we want to keep more than we have room for in our homes. And so you have to realize that, we don't just all have money to have these massive houses with tons of storage so that we can keep everything, whether we use it or not. And so we have to say, what do I have room for? And then only keep the things that fit. And when you run out of space, you have to start weeding things out and saying, okay, I just don't have room for this in my life, and that's okay. And just keep the things that are the most important, and that will make your space feel a lot better, and you'll be happier with your space because you won't feel like your space is lacking or that you don't have enough space. You'll feel like you have enough space for the things you have because you made a choice to do that. Another problem that people can run into is when they're the only one in their house who wants to declutter. Is anybody in that situation? Sometimes it's the wife. A lot of the YouTubers that I follow, the women are the ones who want to declutter and their husbands aren't on board. Ours is kind of the opposite. Like, I got into this a little bit more, but when we first watched the Minimalist documentary, my husband was just like, let's get rid of everything. And I think he would be a true minimalist if I let him. But that's not really my taste. I don't like a whole lot, but I do like to have some things that are visually pleasing, decorative, things like that. Whereas he's just like, get rid of it all, get a tiny house. So that makes it a little bit easier for me. But if you're one of those who you're the only one who's interested in going on this journey, then really this principle would apply even if you're not the only person. But that is to start with your own things. Start with your space, your side of the closet, your drawers, your area of the bedroom, your bathroom. If you're a wife or mother, then chances are the kitchen would be a place where you can get rid of things and nobody's going to care if you got rid of something because it's your space. So that's where you can start, because your things need to be gone through first if you're the one who's interested in doing this. But also, as you go through your area of the house, it will inspire other people. They will see the difference and they will want to go through their space as well. Now, they may not all want to go through it and want to do what you do just because they saw you, but they may be more open to it. If you talk through things, especially with your kids, talk through things about how we can give this to someone else who has more of a need for it than we do. How we like having something, but if we're not really using it, there's someone else out there who could put it to better use, who needs that, and it would really serve a good purpose in their life. And so when you talk about those things, it becomes easier for other people in the house to pick up those ideas, to start looking at their things from a different perspective. And then they also start reaping the benefits of having a less cluttered house because you're going through your things. And so you're not having to sit there and convince them that they need to because it would be better. They're seeing the benefits directly as a result of what you're doing. So those are just a few tips that I've got, some different challenges that we face. And so if you've got any other questions or concerns or problems that you're running into, roadblocks, drop those in the comments and I'd be glad to address those. And I just want to encourage everybody to finish out the challenge. If you're going to start the challenge in March, then I encourage you to start backwards. Start with 31 things the first day to really hit it hard and get your momentum going. And if you have completed the challenge at the end of this month, don't stop there. Keep going through your things, keep looking for areas that you can focus on and simplify in your life, and you'll really enjoy the benefits from that. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll catch up with you next time. Lately, we've had lots of rain, so every now and then we get a beautiful day mixed in, and the kids have really been taking advantage of that and really enjoying it. Here's a little bit of them playing outside. Are you dancing? Are you gonna be a ballerina? Say ballerina. Can you say ballerina? Say ballerina.